The multiverse could be much, much bigger than we ever imagined. Okay, what? Wait a minute now. I was under the impression that the multiverse was eternally infinite in all directions, fractals, big and small. And, well, maybe not. I guess maybe not. I don't know. Like, to me, I was like, okay, so the most mind-boggling thing about the idea of a multiverse is that it was infinite in all directions, infinite universes, right? Scaled. And anyway, let me read a little bit from this. Pretty wild stuff. So the multiverse could be much, much bigger than we ever imagined, it says. A new way of interpreting the elusive mathematics of quantum mechanics could fundamentally change our understanding of reality. And of course, you know what they're talking about, the collapse of the wave function. We've talked about this quite often in the past as well. So here we go, straight from the first couple paragraphs of this New Scientist article. Links will be in the description down below. I ran out of time, so I couldn't do that, but I will do that right after the show here. The multiverse could be infinitely bigger than we ever imagined, according to a new interpretation of quantum mechanics that describes realms upon realms of parallel universes created with every decision we make. If only they'd been listening to Troubled Minds for the last 5 years, this wouldn't have confused them at all. Or watching Marvel Comics, or the TV tropes of all the multiverse and all the rest of this stuff, right? It seems like, hypothetically, we're on the game here. It seems like maybe the actual hypothetical, theoretical, scientific inquiries into this isn't quite caught up yet. But in any case, straight back to the article, at the heart of quantum mechanics is the wave function, an infamously abstract and fuzzy mathematical tool that is extremely good at describing the behavior of photons, electrons, and other denizens of the quantum realm. But what exactly is the wave function? After almost a century of arguments, physicists still disagree on what to make or how to make the leap from the mathematics to the tangible physical world. Now, I have my microphone stand jacked up so high to get it because it was all floppy. Now it's in blocking my view of reading the article. Anyway, okay, so regardless, we're going to get off the article now anyway. So, okay, so the deal is this. The wild part about this is if you start to look at the multiverse itself. Now, we've talked about this. Derek the Nice Talker in the chat, I see there. Him and I have talked about this in the past specifically, and this came from him, and I'm going to quote this badly. Every time you make a decision, a conscious decision in any way, a new reality sort of spins off, okay? And think about how many billion people are here on Earth. Think about how many decisions are made on a daily basis, even at the most fundamental, like millisecond level, okay? Something to that effect, all right? And when you start to think of that in terms of the larger actual cosmos and the multiverse itself, it seems like, as I said, that there's some sort of infinity happening here. Ridiculous fractal infinity. Again, even by human standards, just thinking of how big that space would be is absurd, because it's literally infinite possibilities of infinite decisions constantly happening all the damn time. And this gets into, of course, which we may not get into tonight, we'll see, but it does get into, sort of the bleed over effect of these possible alternate realities, things like the Mandela effect, whatever types of things are happening that are strange, high strangeness in this realm. Maybe there's a bleed over of sorts, okay? But in any case, back to this and where we're going tonight with this. So this idea really starts us with this. Okay, so I mean, no, duh, right? If we're talking multiversal realities and the many worlds theory, then certainly this is fractally massively big, gargantuan. You can't even there's no term that would describe how big this is in the human sentence, anything, right? I don't know. Maybe there's sign language to say how big this is. That big, right? Like, I don't know. Really, really massive and unfathomably massive. That's about as big as my vernacular gets here. But okay, so the weird part is when I was thinking about this, and I was like, all right, so if this is the case, and we're dealing with sort of these fractal sort of peel-offs of multiversal realities constantly spinning off into this larger space, that is not this universe, by the way. These are other full-on universes, okay? Wild stuff, wild stuff. It got me thinking of some other weird things that we don't consider many times. Specifically, we talk about human interaction. We talk about that collapse of the wave function. We talk about the quantum realm. At what point does that quantum, let's say, aspect of the quantum space stop happening and in the macro world, okay? Which is weird, odd, bizarre to consider that we live in that space. The Schrodinger's cat, which again is a thought experiment. The cat is either alive or dead, but in the superposition space, he is both alive and dead, right? And this is what we're talking about. However, this gets even more weird when you start thinking about other things, okay? Because if we're dealing with dare we say, I don't know, the other mysteries, the spaces of, let's say, the Troubled Mind show in its first year, which was kind of conspiracy 101 in a lot of ways. It was, looking at parapolitics. It was discussing whether the world was upside down or not. And is it this some sort of illusion that I'm dealing with? Or do you guys sense this too? Let's talk about this. This is in the news. And then, that's conspiracy 101. That's where we began, really. What about this other aspect that we kind of touched on in the very first year was, and actually at the very beginning of the intro of Troubled Minds, is that number stations. Okay. Now, the weird part with that, and I'll tie this back in a second, is that when you turn on the radio, you ever notice this? So keep number stations in mind with the multiverse, and you may see where I'm going with this. Now, the deal is this. In the old days, and again, I know many of you are old like me, and I say that nicely because I'm not really that old. I'm really in my prime because, hey, right? Hey, like Fonzie, right? Let's smack the jukebox and it fixes itself or whatever. Yay, right? Hey, I'm in my prime. But I'm also old. I'm getting up there. And I remember a day when you would turn on the radio and it seemed like a magical thing. Back in the broadcast radio days. It's still happening, of course, but we've got the internet. This was pre-internet. So there was television, there was radio, and there was, maybe the budding VHS sort of, rent your pornos at the pre-Blockbuster or whatever. Of course, I was too young for that. But, it's just an 80s joke. But, okay, so the weird part is this. When you would tune in the radio, you kind of have that frequency, sort of the white space between stations, right? You get that the hiss, that white noise. Now, the weird part that always seemed like a magical thing to me, and you kind of have to close your eyes and have a little bit of an imagination in this aspect, was you never really knew where the broadcast was coming from. And, at that old radio station that I used to be a part of, I had a commercial that played on there that I was talking about broadcasting from Alpha Centauri. Okay. Now, if you were picking up, let's say, human transmission from Alpha Centauri, how would you know? How would you really know? And that becomes the premise of tonight. Let's go multiverse. Let's combine it with number stations and talk about possibly broadcasting into other realities or bringing broadcasts from other realities into ours. Now, when you start to think of it in those terms of that sort of mysterious signal, and I'll get to number stations in a moment, and if you don't know what they are, I'll explain. I'll even play a couple of them, and you can go, what the hell is that? Exactly, what the hell is that? If you look at this in a larger sense, how would you know if you were getting a broadcast from somewhere else? Because many of these number stations that they've kind of chalked up to these Cold War era spy information things, right? And that's fine. And in many cases, they've even denied broadcasting these things and saying, no, that's not us. We didn't do that as normal, deny in the spy game. But you get what I'm saying. What if there are number stations that aren't human at all, human-based, or let's say humans from this realm is really where we begin tonight, okay? Because this gets weird when you think about it. But okay, before we do that, we're going to get back, take a quick break and get a word from our sponsor, of course. Hey, Jack in Oregon's been good to me. Let's be good to him and play the Stoic Minute. Be right back. 1 minute, Troubled Minds coming up. Keep on the top of your mind, number stations, mysterious broadcasts, and how would we know if we were actually picking up a signal from another reality? And of course, the next question